There's a group of us older hockey players get together and play hockey 3 times a week at the Simmons Sports Arena over here in Charlottetown. And on November 29th, I just finished playing a hockey game, and I was going over to the penalty box. That's where we keep our spare sticks. And I never made it. I got as far as the door, I guess. The door was open, I fell right in, head first.
And that fall was the last thing that Everett White remembered. He had suffered a cardiac arrest, a condition where your heart stops beating completely. Things were serious, but thankfully, Everett was surrounded by the right people.
When I had the attack, I was very lucky because when I took it and went into the penalty box, fell into it, one of our guys, Johnny Brown, plays with us. He recognized I was in deep trouble, so he came over and they got me out and he started CPR, and somebody else called EMS, and one of the teams going on after us, the goaltender, was a volunteer fireman, and he was trained in defibrillators. So he came out, he was partly dressed, he came out and went and got the defibrillator out of the office, of the rink office, and he applied and gave me a shock and got me going, I guess, and no question that saved me. So the EMS arrived and they worked me out in the ambulance, and then they had to shock me again. And then I went to the hospital and they put me under this cooling blanket, and I stayed there for, I think it was over 24 hours.
The cooling blanket is a valuable piece of equipment used to keep the body temperature of unresponsive cardiac patients low, in order to limit the extent of damage that can be done to the brain and other organs.
So when someone has cardiac arrest, there is no pulse, there is no heartbeat. So for that period of time, the brain is not getting oxygen. The brain is pretty resilient. It can survive for some minutes without a pulse, but a lot of the damage, the brain damage that happens with cardiac arrest, happens after your pulse is restored and there's a massive blood flow suddenly to the brain that's not been getting blood flow for a few minutes. This damage can go on for minutes to hours after your pulse is restarted, your heart's restarted. So what the cooling blanket does is it protects the brain during this vulnerable period with this massive amount of blood flow and perfusion to the brain. Patients now, before we had the blanket and this protocol, about 20% of these patients survive to go home to their normal life, working, living with family. Now that we're doing this treatment with this blanket, 50% of our patients are going home to live their normal life.
On the advice and care of his doctors, Everett is making great strides and has even looked to get clearance to return to his passion.
We had a little discussion more about what you can do, what you shouldn't do, because you're still in the healing stage, and that'll take maybe up to a year. So I asked him about playing hockey, and he said, as far as I'm concerned, the work I've done, there shouldn't be any problem. So kind of looking forward to next October.